He was late, furious, and $1 million away from disaster. A small boy with a rag and polish saved his meeting in 1 minute. If this made you smile, like, share, and subscribe, and let's spread stories that change hearts. There are moments that look small when they happen. 2 people, a pair of shoes, a minute of time. But sometimes those tiny moments become the hinge on which whole lives turn. This is the story of Marcus Reed, a man who built a fortune, and of Tay Johnson, a 10-year-old shoe polisher who lived on the edges of the same city. It is about how a smear of mud on a polished shoe led to $1 million handshake, a promise kept, and a family changed forever. The Reed house was the kind of house that made other houses feel small. Tall gates, glass, and a driveway that cleaned itself. Inside, sunlight slid across polished floors. Portraits hung in the hallway. The children's toys were organized by size and color. Everything had a place, everything had a plan. Marcus Reed, 42, neat haircut, crisp navy suit, stood in the hall examining the tie he'd worn 100 times, but tonight it felt heavier. Today, an international delegation from 3 countries would sit across his long oak table and decide whether they would sign on the $1 million project. It was a meeting that would shape the next decade of his company and a legacy he was building for his young children. His 2 children, Olivia, 10, and Noah, 7, appeared at the foot of the stairs in matching school uniforms, hair combed, shoes shined. Marcus smiled at them with the practiced warmth of a parent who always arrived on time and with plans for success. He kissed their heads, handed them their lunches, and straightened their collars. "Dad," Olivia said, "are you nervous?" "I'm focused," Marcus answered, which meant the same thing in his world. He was already running the meeting in his head, the introductions, the numbers, the handshake, the signature. He waved to his wife, Laura, who tied her scarf and reminded him, quietly, with the love of a woman who kept their house running, "Remember to call me if you need anything." He kissed her and left. Marcus's black sedan rolled out of the driveway under a bright morning sky. The sun made the chrome gleam. He checked his watch. The traffic report was clear. He drove fast but controlled, the city unfurling before him. On the boulevard near the convention center, a delivery truck was double parked. A puddle of frozen rainwater lay in the parking lot patches where the city had not yet repaired. Marcus pulled into the visitor parking and stepped out. He didn't notice the small mud patch under his left heel. He crossed the lot with purposeful long strides, portfolio in hand, greeting the receptionist in the lobby with a polite nod as if he... On the edge of the parking lot, near a cluster of cars, there lived a small cart with tins and brushes, the simplest shop, a shoe shine stand. Behind it crouched Tay Johnson, 10 years old, small for his age but quick of hand and soft in the eyes. He had been polishing shoes since he was 7, learning from a neighbor who taught him how to bring back shine to old leather. Tay's hands were forever dusted with black polish. He worked in the mornings and evenings to earn coins for his sister's school books and his own future hope of going to class. Tay watched men rush by in suits. He knew the rhythm of the city, the hurry, the small kindnesses that sometimes came when someone dropped a coin, the rare smile that meant good luck. When he saw a tall man about to slip, Tay simply moved, a blur of a small arm reaching out. He stepped forward, caught the heel with the thumb of his polishing hand, and in one swift motion guided Marcus's foot back to solid ground. Marcus barely registered the hand at first. He steadied himself, looked down, and time slowed. A smear of mud had already conquered one side of his shoe. He could feel the damp grit on the leather. In his head a dozen small disasters unfolded, the first impression ruined, the delegation noticing, a stain that would be a headline in some quiet corporate gossip at lunch. In his life he had been taught to solve problems by calling a team, scheduling a meeting, delegating the fix. He had never imagined his solution could be a small boy with a rag. Thank you, Marcus said, the practiced politeness in his voice less certain now. Tay bowed his head like a craftsman does when his work is being judged. It's okay, sir. I will clean it, he said. Give me a minute. No, I'm late. Marcus started to step away. Tay's hands did not rush. He set down his rag, took Marcus's shoe in one steady motion, and wiped the mud. He applied polish, buffed with circular strokes, blew on the leather, then shined the toe until light reflected back without a gap. Marcus's phone buzzed with a reminder. The delegation would be in 20 minutes. Sweat formed at the temple of a man who had scheduled lines under his skin. He watched the boy work with the same intensity he reserved for quarterly reports. A dozen small minutes of his life, a whole meeting, the signature, would be decided in this instant. Tay finished, took a small cloth and held it up like an offering. All done, sir, he said. Marcus looked down. The shoe was as clean as new. The leather held light like a mirror. Marcus felt something lift inside his chest, an unexpected calm. It was as if the boy had wiped not only mud but the impatience from his mind. He dug into his pocket, searching for money. He wanted to pay the boy little extra for the miracle of time. He found a note, a business card, a token, and then stopped. Wait. He took Marcus's hand briefly. Please don't worry about paying me now. You go. Good luck, Tay said, and in his face Marcus read such simplicity and hope that it stopped him. Marcus fumbled in his pocket anyway and put a crisp bill into the boy's hand. Thank you, he said, meaning it for more than the polish. Tay's eyes widened. He had never held more than a coin. Go, the meeting, Tay urged. Marcus straightened his shoulders as if someone had pressed a remote and returned him to business mode. He checked his shoes with the satisfaction of a man who had overridden disaster. He shook the boy's hand, truly shook it, and then with a smile he walked to his car. On the way, he turned back and saw the boy already packing his brushes, carrying his small tin. Marcus looked back, saw a small figure amid the cars, and felt something he did not expect. The meeting was not the only thing happening in the world. There were, he realized, other lives that mattered as well. The conference room smelled of polished wood and strong coffee. Men and women in suits from 3 countries filed in. The head of the delegation, an elder diplomat, looked at Marcus with cautious respect. Slides, numbers, forecasts, Marcus unfurled them, all the rehearsed charm and data at his fingertips. At the table, board members, investors, the delegate leaders. Eyes on Marcus. He presented with the force of someone who had prepared his life around this exact hour. Then he reached the closing slides, the dollar figures, the timeline. The head delegate cleared his throat and asked the question that would close the room. Are we confident? He asked. Marcus looked briefly at his own shoes under the table. They were flawless. He felt a steadiness in his hands. Confident, he said. Let's sign. The delegation members spoke in low voices, pens poised. The $1 million signatures, the handshake, he felt the culmination of years of risk and precision. The papers were passed. A pen scratched on the dotted line and the deal was done. After the meeting, cameras clicked, the polite congratulations began. Marcus felt the rush, the opening of channels, the applause of numbers and contracts. He took his folder, left the room, and as he stepped into the corridor he found himself thinking of the boy. He pulled his phone, opened the app that had a contact for corporate social responsibility, the charity projects his company supported. He tapped a line, typed a message. Arrange education support and mentorship for the boy at the corner of West Market and 4th. Shoes shine. Urgent. He pressed send. He walked out of the building to his car, and on impulse walked across the parking lot toward the small cart. The boy was still there, polishing shoes, but now a small group of people had gathered, handing him coins. He looked up when he saw the man from the meeting walk toward him. Marcus extended his hand again. "Hello, I'm Marcus Reed." The boy blinked. Marcus hesitated. "I would like to invite you to my office at noon. Come have lunch. Bring your notebook." He spoke with the authority of a CEO, but his voice had the odd tenderness of someone admitting he might be wrong about what matters. Tay's eyes widened with disbelief. "Why?" he asked. "For saving my deal," Marcus said, and then added, "and saving my day. I want to meet you. At noon." Tay nodded, both thrilled and cautious. He had heard of men in suits who promised and never returned. He had also learned to be careful, to trust small and small only. At noon, Tay arrived at a clean, glass office that smelled of coffee and success. He felt out of place and amazed, but Marcus offered him a seat, a bowl of chicken soup, and a warm smile. Marcus introduced him to two people from the company's outreach team and explained that he wanted to provide a scholarship and a mentorship program to help Tay attend school and to train in a trade he loved. "But most of all," Marcus said, looking into the boy's face, "I want you to choose. If you want to study, we'll help. If you want to work as a craftsman and learn to fix and design, we'll support that too. We'll pay for tools and schoolbooks and protect whatever path you choose." Tay swallowed hard. He thought of his little sister waiting at home for him, of classes he had missed, of the hope of being more than a pair of hands with polish. He asked simply, "Will my sister be able to go to school?" Marcus nodded. "Yes." Then Marcus took an extra step. He asked the child if he would like to meet Marcus's own children, to see how a different life looked, and to have them all come together for a weekend. Marcus wasn't interested in a trophy excuse to make him look generous. It began to sting him that his kids had never seen the world beyond their gates. This boy had given his children an honest mirror. The months that followed were small miracles in patient stages. Marcus arranged a scholarship for Tay and his sister. He set up afternoon classes and a small savings account. He personally sponsored mentorship sessions with artisans who could teach leather work, design, and honest trade. He hired a tutor, a kind woman named Ms. Alvarez, who sat with Tay gently, teaching him how to read and to imagine. The boy who once shined shoes before dawn started to read aloud. The same hands that once buffed dull leather now learned to sketch, to measure, to model, the thinking of a maker, not just a mender. Marcus's own home changed, too. Olivia and Noah watched Tay and his sister come into their lives. Instead of a storybook of perfect schedules, they found a boy who laughed when he got flour on his face, who couldn't stop asking questions about airplanes, about numbers, about the city beyond their gates. Marcus's children began to act differently. They asked why a piece of leather could be so beautiful. A year later, the company launched an apprenticeship program in Tay's neighborhood. The ribbon cutting poured into local papers, but the real story lived in small rooms, in Tay's sister's school bag, in the quiet tutoring sessions, in the afternoons when Marcus taught Tay to read financial terms the way a coach teaches a game plan, with patient explanations and stories. At the next family dinner, Marcus looked across the table at Laura, Olivia, and Noah and said, "Success is not what I thought." Laura squeezed his hand, and in the corner, Tay, now in a neat school shirt, told a joke that made the whole table laugh. Marcus had saved a deal, and in return, a deal saved a life. He had made an investment money doesn't measure: time, attention, belief. He had learned that children learn by watching. He had learned that generosity is not an event but a discipline. Years later, when Tay graduated from a trade program with honors, he walked across a small stage, and Marcus, the man who had been in a different world, sat among his children and applauded like a father. The applause was not a business metric. It was the sound of a world that finally understood what worth can be. Tay would sometimes pass by the shoeshine corner where he learned his first strokes, and would nod to the old tin box and smile. He would polish shoes, but now with confidence that it was not his destiny to remain at the curb. He would eventually design a small brand of handcrafted leather goods, a line that celebrated both craft and dignity, and the label would read, not with the name of a megacorp, but with a promise, made by hands that learned to dream. And Marcus? He learned to check his shoes in the morning, but first he learned to look, to notice, and to choose an occasional minute for what truly mattered. Music swells then softens. Life is built of small moments and stranger hands. One smear of mud taught a man to see the children he thought he'd already provided for. One boy cleaned a shoe and polished a future. That is how change begins, not with grand gestures alone, but with the courage to act kindly when the clock is ticking.